Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Exploring Worlds. Okay, so when we think adventure storytelling, when we think adventure in cinema, what is the most prominent figure that comes to mind? Most likely Indiana Jones, which is my personal favorite, like, movie character, I think. And definitely favorite adventure hero. I think quite a lot of people would agree on that. So I'm going to talk about the first two movies. I'm going to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Temple of Doom, and then later on it will transition over to a discussion about the third installment, The Last Crusade, as well as the infamous fourth installment, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But so talking about the first two movies, I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's actually not my favorite Indiana Jones movie, and I won't spoil that until we get to it later. But it's definitely, I'd probably say it's my second favorite Indiana Jones movie. You know, a hell of a way to start off a franchise. You know, you were pumped from the very beginning to see what was going to happen, to see what was around each corner, kind of a thing. The introduction to Indiana Jones was really well done. And again, it just really opened up the sort of, adventure and just globe-trotting kind of, atmosphere for a franchise. Like, you know, one of the several things I think make Indiana Jones a special franchise. You know, it's got the basic elements of, you know, a classic adventure serial kind of a thing. It's got a prominent figure. It's well known that Steven Spielberg drew heavy inspiration from James Bond 007 in the creation of this character, alongside George Lucas as well. And yeah, so it is basically it creates a lot of excitement for in a lot of, and brings a lot of celebration towards these, you know, far-flung, you know, kind of strange, exotic places in the world. Like, even if they're in known countries, and they might have been filmed in different areas or whatever, they within the story, they're very rarely, even if they're in like a really well-known country, it very rarely is it like, you know, the capital that they're in, or like all the known places. If they do, it's generally a kind of a brief segment, just getting from one place to the other. But generally it really celebrates like these, you know, strange, smaller kind of places, and very historical places, sort of off the beaten path. And, you know, it really it really does a good job at just, yeah, as I said, celebrating that and bringing enthusiasm towards it. And this is definitely, like, as far as an acting performance goes, you know, nobody could ever play Indiana Jones like Harrison Ford. Like, that was just prime casting. Like, he was meant to be Indiana Jones 100%. And a lot of the side actors are really good in this. I love John Rhys Davies' character as well. And then moving on to the second one, it's no, on to the Temple of Doom. I really like Temple of Doom, actually. I think it's a little underrated. I don't dislike it like a lot of other fans do. But I definitely think I'd say it's not my favorite of the franchise, let's put it that way. And but, you know, there's definitely some elements that I did appreciate and enjoy to this. I appreciated how, you know, the sort of, you know, well, a lot of people say that it's kind of, you know, paints a bad image. I kind of disagree, but they did a good job at celebrating as well as coming up with some kind of funny tongue-in-cheek humor and situations to do with, Indian culture, because it takes place in India. And a lot of people think that it painted a bad image. I really don't. I think it was perfectly fun, and I think that it actually celebrated the culture, in my opinion, and the whole story of this does. And I love the when they go to the thuggy ceremony underground. I love the entrance to that. When I was a kid, that fascinated me, actually. How they were just all in these caves, then all of a sudden they just came to this opening and seeing this happening, and at first they're just like spying, trying to keep hidden. And I love when Kate Capshaw's character says, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" to Indiana Jones, and then Indiana just says, "Nobody's seen anything like this in hundreds of years." When I was a kid, that scene actually really did fascinate me, and this whole franchise did. I mean, I was introduced to this at a very young age, and it definitely opened up my imagination big time. They definitely were probably my favorite movies, actually, as a kid, and I watched them a lot, and they definitely artistically gave me some heavy inspiration growing up, absolutely. And yeah, and I love in the second one too. I love the on the whatever you call those things, the roller. It's like a train, but they're the little tiny buggy things, whatever they're called. The race in that, well, not necessarily race, well, it's kind of a race, but like the duel slash race incident in there was actually quite unique. Like nobody's ever done anything like that before. And again, it's a pretty fun movie. It definitely, it's a passable Indiana Jones movie, 100%. I liked it a lot more when I was a kid, but I still like it now. But yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark definitely holds supreme between those two. And yeah, so I think for Raiders of the Lost Ark, of course, I'm going to give it an A+. It's definitely an A+. I'm actually going to give... well, just spoiler alert, I actually give the whole franchise, maybe asides the fourth one, an A+, actually. The first three all get an A+. They're all three of them are included in my top 20 favorite movies of all time. So both of them get an A+, 100%. And as far as the cheese grating goes, okay, so Raiders of the Lost Ark, I mean, the movies are cheesy, but they're meant to be cheesy, so they're cheesy in a good way. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is on a whole other level. So it has, I think, like one of the best cheese out there, in my opinion, which is extra old cheddar, 100%. It's cheesy, but it's good, 100%. And for Temple of Doom, I'm going to give this one maybe extra old Gouda. Still really good, but a bit cheesier. Extra old Gouda. Alright, so that's my review for Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the Temple of Doom. Look forward to when we flip over to when I review The Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Thank you very much for joining me on Exploring Worlds. Okay, so another night rolling in to the second set of the Indiana Jones franchise movie reviews and discussion. So, starting off with Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Now, this is by far my ultimate favorite of the Indiana Jones movies. This is the one that just really captured my imagination the most as a kid, the one that I enjoyed watching the most as a kid. And to this day, I think of all of them, I mean, they're all great movies, but this is definitely the most artistically and just um, spiritually and imaginatively put to screen 100%. I've seen an interview on one of the special features for this with Steven Spielberg saying that, and this is when he's talking about the fourth one, because it was actually George Lucas's idea to go ahead with the fourth one, and not his. He thought he resolved the franchise with the third one. But he said that he had no idea really how they could go ahead with the fourth one, because there's no real greater adventure than the quest for the Holy Grail. And that's so true, really. I mean, it's, if you think of just adventure, if you think of the classic adventure story and how that whole kind of thing came to be in storytelling and cinema and whatnot, the quest for the Holy Grail, I mean, that truly is the greatest adventure. I thoroughly enjoyed Sean Connery's performance as Professor Henry Jones Sr., father of Indiana Jones. R.I.P. Sean Connery. Significant loss. One of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. Really, really interesting person. Definitely a big loss for sure. So rest in peace, Sean Connery. And this is probably, I think, the best performance by Sean Connery, my favorite anyway. I thoroughly enjoyed his performance and his character in this. I also liked who else was it I was going to mention in this? In the third movie, there was somebody else. Oh yes, River Phoenix, another loss too, another big loss from further back. River Phoenix, great actor of his time. He did a good job as the young Indiana Jones in this movie. I like it. It really delved into like the lore of the Holy Grail. And I love the score. It's the same Indiana Jones score, but there's like other hums and hymns kind of added to the overall score. By far my favorite score of the franchise. And yeah, it truly is. This is almost a flawless movie in my opinion. It's one of those rare, like, perfect movies. Like, there's not anything I could think of to change about it. It literally just is a perfect movie. It's 100% an A+. And as for the cheese grating, again, it gets the highest quality cheese available. Extra old cheddar, 100%. It's got a little bit of cheese here and there, but it explores the lore of Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail and all of that kind of stuff. History in the most authentic way of all of the movies in the franchise, in my opinion. So definitely an A+. And on to the fourth movie. Now, this was a highly disappointing movie when it came out. I remember when it came out, and I actually don't mind this movie as much as a lot of other people do. I definitely there's some good traits to it and some good aspects of it, and it's not a bad watch. I don't mind watching it from time to time. But it doesn't hold a candle to the rest of the trilogy. It really doesn't. The first original trilogy before it became a franchise, it doesn't hold a candle. But nonetheless, it is a continuation. I do enjoy watching it. I remember when this came out, and I was in high school, and I remember, everybody was kind of rushing to see this. It was sort of a big deal. And I remember, I was either in early high school or late elementary school, I'm not sure. And I still, Indiana Jones was always like one of my favorite movie characters, but I was sort of at an age where I wasn't watching that kind of thing that much, but I still always, I mean, even though I watched these movies long after they originally came out, of course, because they're classics, but, I still watched them at a very young age, and they were still heavily influential, and, I didn't really know much more about the whole thing other than just the classic movies that I had seen. And so when this was coming out, I was pretty stoked. And I remember there was a whole surge of Indiana Jones stuff. Like, it really came back into pop culture for a little bit there. There was all kinds of commercials, and fast food restaurants were promoting this, and it was a big sort of, quite a big deal, really. And I remember thinking at the time, like, okay, this is but I knew there was something off about it. Like, just the way that they were presenting Indiana Jones, there was just something off about it. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was something off about it nonetheless. Just need some water, sir. And there was just something off about the character, and so I watched it, and again, I didn't mind it. I thought the adventure of it was all right. It was a little moderned up. It didn't have that, classic kind of feel that the other ones did. They added some elements that would only be done, nowadays, at least in my opinion, anyway. But it it yeah, there was just so when I seen the movie, it kind of dawned on me. It's like, okay, so it's been so long since there had been any sort of Indiana Jones, and this was kind of a fluke occurrence that had happened in the first place. So, but at the time, most people had fond memories of Indiana Jones and had watched it as a kid, but hadn't really revisited it since or in a long time. So even though those old classic tropes were, still embedded in your memory somewhere, he just kind of became one of those characters during the duration of that time where people hadn't seen it in a long enough time that he was sort of invincible in their opinion. He was almost like a superhero. Well, they call him action hero, but yeah, like an action hero, hero, if you will, in a sense that, he can beat the odds every time. And they definitely went a little too far with this. Like, Indiana Jones, that's always what was the best about him, in my opinion, was that he would, he would get the shit kicked out of him. He'd have his ass handed to him. He would a lot of times lose a fight and, either just have to escape or win, not just from his own strength, but from finding some sort of weird kind of way to get himself out of the situation, or a lot of times it not even being his own doing, just a mistake that his enemy made, or some fluke thing that's going on in the background happened to take out his enemy for him. So that's one of the cool things about Indiana Jones, is he's not this like tough guy that can take on anybody. He's a vulnerable person. He just has the wit to get himself through these situations and the bravery to do it anyway, right? And they sort of made him a little too invincible in this movie. And I do enjoy, they did feed on the nostalgia in the perfect kind of way. Like, I did enjoy like the Easter eggs to the original trilogy, such as the Ark in the Area 51 box when they're busting out of there, and several different things like that. I did enjoy that. I did think they did an alright job with that. There were also some strange things, like what they did with Marcus Brody. I mean, he's passed away in this, but how they brought him up in the movie and how they decided to kind of gloss over what actually happened. And then there's this strange scene with his statue being decapitated, and, Mutt, his kid, thinks it's funny, but he is like, serious. But it was just a weird scene. Like, it was just a weird way to say homage to the great character played by Denholm Elliott, which was, Marcus Brody in the movie. I thought there were some weird moments like that. As much as the performance was controversial and a lot of people didn't like it, I actually quite enjoyed. I like Shia LaBeouf, actually. I like him as an actor. I think he's a great actor, actually. Yeah, I really don't mind what I've seen from him at all, as much as the image that has been presented in the mainstream public, right? But I didn't mind his performance in this. I thought he did an alright job in this as, Indiana Jones' son. I think he played an alright role, and he did the best he could with what he had, and he did a very passable effort. I don't really think there's anything wrong with it, and he suited it too. I don't think he was out of place or anything like people say. I think he actually suited the role quite well. I will fully admit, the things that, it's almost became it was jump the shark before from Happy Days. It's became nuke the fridge now, as a saying for when movies go over the top. And definitely the nuking the fridge scene. I mean, it's a cool idea because of the time frame that they're dealing with, that they incorporated an atomic bomb into a nuclear bomb into this, but it it the nuke when he goes in the fridge, that is definitely over the top. Something else should have happened. They should have made something else happen to have gotten them out of that situation some way, shape, or form. That was way too over the top. I fully agree with that criticism. Shia LaBeouf swinging through the trees like with the monkeys was absolutely ridiculous. Totally agree to that. Getting sacked on every plant as when balancing in between two vehicles is over the top completely. Yeah, no, there's a lot of moments like that, but nonetheless, it's a passable movie. It's an alright adventure movie. It elaborates on the lore some more, and it adds an interesting new chapter to Indiana Jones, I guess. But yeah, I definitely won't give it an A+. I think I give it a B+. And for the cheese grating, this one's definitely got medium cheddar cheese strings, 100%. This one definitely, either that or like cheese puffs or something, cheesies. This one has definitely got the most cheese of all of the movies, for sure. And yeah, so those are my reviews for the Indiana Jones franchise, everybody. One of my favorite franchise and movies and movie characters of all time. And I really hope you enjoyed those reviews for this segment of Exploring Worlds. In the box set, I mentioned about the young Indiana Jones. It's sort of I've seen it enough times. My take on that, I'm not going to do a full rewatch it again or do a full-on review for that, but there was sort of a mini review in the box set unveiling for that. So yeah, what you're going to see now is I'm just going to roll you over to, I think, just one more movie review. And then that should cap off the movie reviews for this Exploring Worlds episode. And yeah, we'll see where the adventure leads. 100%. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you. Okay, so I mainly, as far as adventure movies, I really wanted to talk about the quintessential adventure movies, which were Indiana Jones, but I just want to leave off on here. Not that long ago, I reviewed The Mask of Zorro, as well as Unmasking Zorro, the documentary about the character. And I said I was going to review the sequel to The Mask of Zorro, The Legend of Zorro, which I never got around to, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to do so, because this is quite a critically panned movie. It came a little late after the first. Didn't really take advantage of the hot streak it was on. And yeah, it's known as not the greatest movie, but I actually am very fond of this movie. I mean, it isn't as good and it isn't as well put together of a movie as The Mask of Zorro, but I find this to be a really fun movie to watch, and again, a movie that heavily celebrates adventure. I find this one really reminds me of almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon, or almost like like a true adventure serial from way back in the day or something, where it's quite low budget. It's not. It doesn't have this super complicated story or anything like that. It has a pretty, like, the villains are like, if you want to talk about cardboard cutout cartoon villains, this is definitely it. And even Zorro's more of like a cartoon hero in this as well. But if in that sense, it's fun. And yeah, it's nothing more but just to have a good time watching. And the stunt work is really well. There's actually some really well done and awesome stunt work, and fencing, swordplay, and all of that put on display here in this movie. And I have a fondness of it as well because I was quite young, I think late elementary school or something like that, when this movie came out. And I remember I went to see this movie in theater with a good friend of mine, and it was just a really good night out at the theater. There was lots of people there, lots of people we knew, lots of different families from different people that we knew and stuff there, and it was just a good time at the theater. And yeah, just because of being quite young as a kid, just one of those adventures at the cinema that I'll always have good memories of. It was a good, fond memory for sure. And yeah, so I definitely I do hail this as a worthwhile movie to watch, and one that, as I said, I have very fond memories for. And yeah, I basically enjoy the movie. It's full of cheese. This is definitely melted melted Velveeta slices, 100%. This is 100% cheese. But for grading it, I'm actually going to give it a B plus. Again, it's one of those movies. It's a B movie, but it goes a little beyond that. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it anyway. I recommend watching it if you haven't seen it, and I recommend giving it a rewatch if you've seen it when it came out and didn't like it then. And yeah, that's basically my review for that. That's just another one I wanted to throw out there for you. So I think I've reviewed some pretty quintessential adventure movies here. A lot of other movies that I hail at the same level have already been reviewed on the channel before. But yeah, so that was Exploring Worlds Adventure in Storytelling and Cinema. And to end it off, I have quite a big box set and Blu-ray DVD unveiling to do with you of all of my adventure movie collection. And yeah, ones that I at least perceive as the most quintessential to have. So yeah, I'm going to roll over to that, and yeah, hope you enjoy. Well, hello everybody. Okay, so closing off the Exploring Worlds for Adventure and Storytelling and Cinema. So here I have with me some box sets as well as some Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff of my adventure movie collection, and some of the ones I consider the quintessential adventure movies to have in your collection if you're into that kind of thing. So starting off, I reviewed these for this. This is the Indiana Jones franchise box set. This is one of my favorite box sets, actually. Opens up like a book, and each disc is in its own little sleeve. And then there's a bonus disc with special features as well. Quite enjoy this box set. And then over here, I've also got The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, the box set. Now this is an interesting, kind of controversial in a way Some people like it, some people don't. I think they're alright. I think they're pretty good. They're passable. Glad I have it in my collection. And yeah, it's another pretty cool box set. This one opens up into tons of different flaps, so I won't open the whole thing, but basically it opens like that, and then there's another two sides that come open, which make it very long. So that's another one. And then, I think, which is the last of the box sets here, this is another one of my favorites, the Mummy franchise. It's got all three of the Mummy movies as well as the Scorpion King. This one's in a little box, and then it comes out to a case like that. Again, you've got all your movies. Bonus disc at the end as well. And yeah, so that's another one of my favorites there, actually. Glad I got that one. It's a pretty quintessential box set. Here for DVD, I got the Mummy, the 2015, or was it 2018? I forget which year this one came out, but the newer one with Tom Cruise. Just DVD version, nothing special, just the disc inside. And then, also, these are other ones I reviewed for this segment as well. I've got The Mask of Zorro. Great movie. Love The Mask of Zorro. This is the 4K version. It has this as the front cover, and then when you take it, open it up, it has that. Yeah, 2 discs inside. It contains the documentary Unmasking Zorro, which is a really good filmmaking documentary if you ever want to check out something like that, if you're into that kind of thing. Got The Legend of Zorro, the sequel, just on DVD. A lot of people didn't like this one. I quite thoroughly enjoyed this one, actually. Which is also, there's a review on it for the channel. Just DVD, just got the disc, little booklet in the side there. Okay, so moving on to just more singular Blu-rays and DVDs. I got The Lost City of Z, which I reviewed this with Daniel, actually, for the adventure series of Percy Fawcett. Really good movie, really enjoy this one. Nice Blu-ray version of it. Okay, and then I got In the Heart of the Sea, Chris Hemsworth, Moby Dick retelling, modern day Moby Dick retelling. Pretty damn good movie. I enjoyed this one myself. Got that there. Helicopter up above, in case you're wondering about the noise. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. I actually don't, like, this is the only one I have. I don't have the sequel, but I quite enjoyed this one a lot more than the sequel anyway, and even more so than the original with Robin Williams, which I didn't really go for that much, but this is a pretty damn good adventure movie. Blu-ray. Nice. Reviewed that one on the channel not that long ago, too. Kong, Skull Island, the King Kong movies are very much so adventure movies, in my opinion. This is Blu-ray version. Pretty good version. I didn't mind Kong Skull Island. It was a good movie. Good addition to the Monsterverse. Okay, and then we got King Kong 2005. Again, some people didn't like this one. I quite thoroughly enjoyed this one. So did some other people in my family, I'm pretty sure, as well. National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. This one's kind of pushing, it's kind of pushing the edges, but this is actually, I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan, and not a huge fan of a lot of the movies he's in, but I do actually like National Treasure. It's a good adventure movie, and it's definitely hailed by some people as almost like a new Indiana Jones or something. I don't hail it as that high, but some people do, so it's definitely worth having in your collection. I don't have the sequel to it, but maybe one day I will. Again, this is just a DVD version. It's those older kind that have little clips on the side, which is annoying, but pretty cool disc. It kind of shines. And final is nothing very particularly great. Most of the movies, besides the Poseidon Adventure, are not the greatest movies, but we've got a fantasy adventure collection on DVD. You've got Curse of King Tut's Tomb, Blackbeard, which are 2 awful movies, really low budget, really cheesy. And then you got Merlin's Apprentice, which is alright. It actually stars Sam Neill from Jurassic Park, surprisingly. and did an alright role in that, but it's a pretty low budget movie, not that great, worth watching once maybe. And then the classic Poseidon Adventure, which I'm pretty sure most people know what that is, and it's an alright movie, kind of cheesy for its time, but it's alright. And yeah. So, that is my quintessential action movie collection. There's some missing that I consider quintessentials, but this is what I have gathered so far. And if you like adventure movies and you're in the mood for adventure, generally any one of these movies will pass that craving to a certain degree. So yeah, that was my episode of Exploring Worlds of when we have delved into adventure in storytelling and cinema. And this is the closing shot I just wanted to do with you guys. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Please come back for more.